Hello everybody and welcome to ultimate guide for my Necromancer Summoner. First of all we'll go over the stats and talking a bit about the build, kinda an introduction. So I have never really done a summon build before, but I thought it was an interesting thing to try out and now I just went for it. So I pretty much did a standard summoner build, but there are some things I want to clarify first before we kinda get to it. I want to up the quality and production of my videos just a little bit. I hope this guide is maybe a little better than some of my recent guides for Diablo 2. Hopefully it is, and if you feel like that is the case, feel free to comment about it or anything like that. That would be nice. But I want to go over the stats first with the introduction out of the way. So as you can see, my strength is a bit of a weird number, and that is because I do not put any points into strength. But due to Enigma, I get such a high amount without putting any points anyways. But sadly, I do not get enough strength to wear Monarch. That means that I cannot use a Spirit Shield, which is fine. This is not a Spirit Shield build anyways. But I also can't use a Spirit Shield on Switch for Call Charm, so I missed the +1 there. If you had a perfect inventory, that means you have, well, 20 annies and 20 torch, you have 20 strength amulet and whatnot, it will probably be worth it to put extra points into strength just to get that plus extra skill to battle orders. But that's pretty much it for the strength. Dexterity, since this is a pretty much, I would say, hardcore build, I'm going for max block. So I'm using a homunculus, which is a great shield for getting max block, and then putting 102 dexterity for getting the 75% chance. 10 dexterity or so is needed to get to 1 point of or 2 points of a chance to block. It's not a lot of dexterity you need to put in, but it's still a reasonable amount, which means you're not gonna run around with say 500 vitality with this build here, which is fine. You don't really need it anyways. And the rest of the points are obviously put into vitality. I would actually say that you could put points into energy as well, just because your survival is that good. And the extra mana pool is just nice when you're spamming corpses to get summons. But it's a very minor boost that you would get, cause as you see here, I'm using 3 rows of mana potion. And that pretty much solves my mana issues anyways, so consider it an optional thing to put points into energy, cause you really do spend a lot of mana using summons. So say you just killed 20 mobs, that means you're doing 45 times 20 mana cost, and that's a lot of mana when your mana pool is only over 500. So yeah, consider the energy is an optional thing to put points into if you feel like your survival is fine, which it will be if you follow my gear selection. So that was it for the introduction and the stats. I hope that the rest of the guide is also to your liking. That was it for the stats. Pretty standard except for the strength. I really do want to emphasize getting strength again on your amulet, just because it's a nice place to get strength from. And what else are you gonna need strength? Where else are you gonna get strength from besides your amulet? This amulet here I want to emphasize a little again. This one also does need resist, but mostly it's all about getting faster cast rate and skill levels. But yeah, we'll get to the gear in just a bit. But if you can get strength to your amulet, that's really nice for your stats, because the +1 extra skill, again, it helps just a tiny little amount. And if this is gonna be a a perfect build that you want to invest wealth into, you might as well consider getting strength from a source like amulet. But let's get to the build. So I'll take the poison and bone spells first. Bone armor, this is very optional, and as well as bone wall. So I'm kind of a geek for bone wall. I think that's a cool looking spell. I can even remember where I find it. Oh, you can use bone wall in town, but Bone Wall looks cool, and it's just a nice spell to have, and that is kind of why I took these 2 points here. You could say that it's actually annoying having to pre-buff yourself and keep bone armor up. It's just an extra keybind and whatnot. So if you don't want to bother with these 2 spells here, you don't have to take them at all. Teeth and Corpse Explosion. These 2 are mandatory just due to the Corpse Explosion. You could max Corpse Explosion, like put 20 points into this, but overall the radius is not that needed. The only thing Corpse Explosion skills are gonna give you is radius, and that's pretty much it. It also increases the mana cost, which is not a nice thing, obviously. So I just went with 1 skill into Corpse Explosion, and then getting to plus 14 after plus skillers from gear and inventory. Pretty standard that most people don't put more than 1 point into Corpse Explosion, but you can choose to, and I will go over a bit why you can, because there are a lot of skill points that are very optional for this build here. So let's take curses. Weaken, Terror, Decryptify. These are kinda just, optional. You don't really need them, but I do like Weaken a bit. This one you kinda don't need as well. I suppose it's okay, but I don't really like either of these 3 skills here, but they're always just nice to have, I suppose, and that is why I took these 3. Amplify damage, this is the one that I'm pretty much set on using for the most part. So this is like, for my poison and necro build, this would be lower resist, just amplify damage for damage, obviously. Iron Maiden, I can't see any situation where I would want to use this one over amplify damage, so it's pretty much just a useless skill. I'm not even gonna consider binding this one. Life Tap, this one is superior choice due to your Merc, and I'll go a bit about that as well. A lot of details for the Merc, but basically the setup he's using doesn't have any life steal on it. That is why life tap is an enormous help for the Merc alone. So like you could switch between amplify damage and life tap, whatever you prefer. Life tap, I suppose it also helps your summons out, but it's not too important. It's mostly just for your mercy chant. Low resist, obviously again, we're not gonna be using any spells at all in this build. It's all physical pretty much, so low resist is not gonna help. Low resist is pretty good for corpse explosion damage alone, so if you are like a totally hyped corpse explosion user, lower resist would actually be a decent thing, cause let's just go back again. Corpse explosion damage 70 to 120% of the corpse life. But then up here the description, cast on the corpse of slain monster, it explodes, damaging nearby enemies. The explosion is half physical and half fire damage. And that is why I do believe that lower resist would actually be a pretty good thing for increasing corpse explosion damage. But it's pretty minor situations where you might find this better than amplify damage or life tap. And now the very optional but always very fun dim vision. I will go over why you should bind this one, because it's just such a nice thing to have. Confuse, useless, I can't see why I would want that, and as well as attract. So again, these 3 here, they're pretty much optional, but I took them just because it's sort of nice, and what else are you gonna spend your points on? But yeah, I think that was it for the curses, so let's go over the summons. Obviously I'm maxing Skeleton Mastery and raise Skeletons. It's a synergy, and this is just a spell. Raise Skeleton Mates is just +1. I would never really want to bother maxing raise Skeleton Mates, they just don't seem to be worth to max. 1 point into Revive is plenty, I would say. You could go max this one if you really feel like Revive. you don't get enough, value out of 23 mobs, which is a huge amount. Sadly, the more skills you put into this one, it doesn't get better. The duration doesn't increase, the life percent and damage does not increase, and so forth. So it's basically just getting more summons out on the field. So it's not that interesting to put more than few points into this. And since I have some money plus skillers, I get plus 22 to summon skills. Clay Golem, this is the main golem that I'll be using for this build. So obviously 1 point into this. Blood Golem, completely useless. I have never really seen a build where you can use this one. I would love to know if you have used the Blood Golem before. Iron Golem, this is a very controversial thing, but most people agree that it's really not worth wasting an item on an Iron Golem. If you have a lot of wealth and you can afford to remake golems that die, go for it. There are a lot of builds choices that opens up if you can afford that, but most people probably won't bother with this, and that's why I also choose not to use Iron Golem in this build. Fire Golem, I never really seen a reason why I would use this one. I think it's more just for a PvP scenario, but since it's not a PvP build, Fire Golem is never gonna find any use. Clay Golem, again, it has the most life, no damage at all, pretty much. It does some damage, but it's really slow, and then and then I mentioned it also slows enemy. So yeah, it's both slow damage and it slows enemies as well. But Clay Golem, it's basically just a meat shield. It's kind of like the Wine Druid's bear, so they can summon bears, and this is just another meat shield to kind of make you even more safe. Golem Mastery just enhances all your golems, and Summon Resist. This one is very needed because it also helps on your other summons. But yeah, that was pretty much it for the build. And now I'll go over why I have 42 skills not used, and I'm always saying that the build is done. So there are a ton of optional, and let's just go through it now first. If you really like having a self buff, you could actually put hard points into bone armor. If you feel like this sword damage is worth it, you could even go as far as getting a strong bone ward, which also helps on your bone armor. You could put points into corpse explosion to get a bigger radius. I recommend this just because it's a very good value for remaining points. The other skills here, it's not really worth it at all. There are very few situations where this would help you out having these skills. I suppose Poison Nova would be pretty good on certain high life mobs, so you can poison enemies so they stop healing themselves, because poison is like open wounds, and if you don't know what open wounds is, that mode pretty much stops mobs from healing themselves, which is a nice thing. But the rest of the points here, like Bone Spear and Bone Spirit, Bone Prison, not really worth it. I would never really bother with it. So yeah, that was pretty much it for the Poison and Bone curses. Honestly, I like amplified damage, but it's just radius, so I wouldn't really bother with it. Let's just go to the screen now. So this is amplified damage, a radius of 13.3 yards, a duration of 1 minute. As you can see, it pretty much fills up half the screen, maybe even more. And you can just spam this one, it doesn't cost too much mana or anything like that. It's just a really nice skill overall. Life tap, again it's the same thing. It also just fills so much of your entire screen with just 18 skills into it. After my plus skills, obviously your gear can vary, but even with like 15 skills, this one fills pretty much the entire screen. And again, it's just a bit of duration and bit of radius. So I would not recommend putting hard points into either of these really. poison lower resist we went and talked about. I will skip this one, but I would probably put 1 point into lower resist also because it can be used in multiplayer games to support your party, which is a nice little thing. And now summon. This is obviously where I would probably put my 42 points into, just because I don't really care for the other two trees too much. So I'm a fan of only having to deal with very few resummons. So I want to make my summons as strong as they now can get, and that is why I feel like putting points into Golem Mastery and Clay Golem. So maxing these two, maybe even putting points into Summon Resist, or if I really wanted to, I could also be like totally bored with having to resummon skeletons and then just go over revive and max that skill out. But the thing is, uh, so skeletons, mages and whatnot, they all last for an eternity. They don't go away. I can't remember if they go away after you exit out of the game. They probably did. But revive is just like you're never really gonna be able to keep, let's say, 35 revives up just because they only last 118 seconds. So putting more points into revive would probably not be worth it. I would say though, if you're gonna be doing this for Ubers, which I will be showing, fun little thing there, yeah, spoiling, but revive is insane for really hard content where you can utilize certain summons, but that's pretty much it for the choice of revive. You could put 1 point into Fire Golem if you're gonna use this for PvP or whatnot. Fire Golem is good to just one-shot the last 1% of health or whatever they might have, just because it has this aura around it or whatever that does fire damage. But for the most part, I feel like just maxing Clay Golem and Golem Mastery. I don't really want to bother raising skeleton mages too much. It don't really help that much at all. Um, Not quite sure what sort of damage they even do. I suppose it's okay, but I feel like it's pretty damn minor, and it's not gonna help on my skeletons here. Another thing is that Raised Skeleton receives bonus from Summon Resist, which also makes Summon Resist even better. So you could perhaps just max your Clay Golem and then max your Summon Resist, and then don't put points into Golems just because. Enhances speed and life for all your golems. It's maybe not that needed because when you are max Clay Golem, it's already at a way high amount of life, like 20k or whatever. So you will probably not need Golem Mastery, and then you could go with Summon Resist just to get even stronger skeletons. But yeah, this is very complicated and it's hard to choose, but before it gets too boring and before it gets too long, I think I want to end the skills with that. It's a very optional thing and you're gonna have to decide for yourself. I simply cannot say what's best. I have a hard time choosing myself, as you can probably guess, but yeah, that was it for the build. That was it for the skills and build. So let's get to the fun part. I can see that the guide is already getting pretty long, but I did want to get a full view of the build and the optional ways that you can build it. But let's go to my stash first, and then we will kind of go from there. Triangle gloves. You need these for the faster cast rate. The rest of the stats does not really matter. You could go with Mage Feast if you don't really need the resist. I do believe I need the resist for this specific build. Or no, I actually don't need the cold resist. So I'm pretty much just using it for the +2 curses over Mage Feast's mana regen. It kind of depends what you're looking for. Another thing is that Mage Feast can also be upgraded. Triangles can't, so there's a little defense bonus there. But the maximum upgrade from Mage Feast is 156 strength or something like that, 151 I think. So you have to consider you can maybe not get more defense anyways. But yeah, Triangles is probably the safest choice for gloves. Mostly again because you just need the faster cast rate. A rock belt, there's no other real choice here. Mirror Walker, I'll talk about this in a bit because this is gonna take a while. Mage Blade, Enigma. You could probably go with another base than Enigma, Mage Blade. I have a breastplate as well that works, but you really have to make sure that the Enigma does not require more than just 50-55 strength or whatever. Because as you see in my inventory, I have a plus 20, plus 20, and do I get any other sources? Nope. So basically I get 40 plus strength from these two items, which is a very high amount from a torch and a Nelius. And due to having these two here, I don't have to put a single point into strength. I'm just gonna remove my mage plate here, and as you see, I jump down to 55 immediately, and when I put it on, I'm back at 171. So really have to value getting a mage plate here if you don't want to put extra points into strength. But again, this depends a lot on your budget as well, because getting such a good Anelius and torch is not for everyone. So I already talked a bit about the amulet. You need this one for the faster cast rate. For a specific build that is based around beast, you could also go over a Mars amulet, but I'll talk about that in a bit. But for the most part, if you need a faster cast rate amulet, which I do, you're looking for +2. I think I can go with as low as +10 faster cast rate. I can't quite remember exactly, but I think I can go pretty low on the faster cast rate, and it does not need to be +20, which helps a lot, because +20, +2 is very expensive. This one is not expensive, even though it has some pretty okay stats. Okay, so the mana on the mana region, that's not gonna help at all. But the plus resistance is very important. Without the plus resistance, I would not be capping my resistance. I can actually just quickly showcase that. So as you can see here, oh, stupid city cleaner. Okay, but as you see here, without plus resist, I would not be capping my resist. So you really have to value getting plus resistance on your amulet, which is why Mars amulet also really works well. But I again will talk about that in a bit. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And again, strength is also really nice. But let's move on to homunculus. There's no other choice here. Real fast. So homunculus versus spirit. Spirit gives faster cast rate and faster hit recovery. That's about it. Homunculus does everything better on all the other parts. Especially 5 mana after each kill is pretty useful. More resistance, a lot of regen mana, and obviously you can max block spirits, but you will have to put a ton of dexterity to get max block with a Monarch Spirit Shield, whereas Homunculus only required me 201 dexterity. So currently actually I have +3 too many, but I switched some gear around just before, so yeah. It's pretty easy to get max block on Homunculus, and that is why I choose this one. Obviously, Homunculus has other stats that are very good as well. And now a little thing here about the jewels. I'll also quickly showcase my inventory. So I have 3 of these faster hit recoveries, and you really don't need this, but this is optional. Again, I'm going for the ultimate gear, and that is why I have the budget for it. These cost about at least 5 FG on JSP, which is quite a lot for a skiller. Maybe even as much as 10 FG, but shop around a bit. Now for the shield here, this one is perfect. Everything is perfect, but it's not upgraded, so you could have gotten a little more defense. The jewel in it is a 7% faster hit recovery, very important. 9 dexterity, somewhat important. Means you don't have to put more points into dexterity to get max block, so you can put more points into vitality or whatever. It has 6 life, which helps a little. You know, you're gonna get battle orders, boom, get more life out of that one. It's like 10 life instead of 6. And obviously you get plus extra 10 resistance as well with this duel. Amazing duel. The problem with this is that this is not for everyone, but if you want the 56 faster hit recovery breakpoint, which is kind of like the normal build, you know, for high-end gear, I suggest doing this and then getting 7% faster hit recovery from your shield and 14% somewhere else, either from your helm or somewhere else. I went with a helm, and that's my setup. So that is why I have this special duel in it. Most people would think, oh, I wouldn't bother with that. There are other options, luckily. I can just quickly showcase. So this Shaco here, if you're going to be using Shaco and Homunculus without an insane duel in it, you should use +5/+5 fire damage and fire, because that helps on corpse explosion damage. So if you put a facet dual fire in it, it's gonna help on your corpse explosion damage. I do believe that the negative resistance does not help on corpse explosion damage, but I can't quite remember. But yeah, that was it for the shield and pretty much the helm as well. Obviously the helm here, I'm only using this helm pretty much for the faster cast rate. Unfortunately, Shaco just does not fit in my build that I want to show off in this video here. And the +3 summon is not gonna be a huge bone over the +2 that Shaco has, but obviously more summon damage, I suppose. The faster hit recovery, the 18 dex, the 12 life, the +20 resistance, that is all done by the 2 sockets here. Again, just amazing overpowered duels, completely, like, they cost as much as 20-30 FG per duel. So this helm I paid 100 FG for, and this shield I paid 25 FG for. And honestly, this was not even too expensive. I suppose I could have ended up paying more, especially for this helmet here, because it's pretty rare. It's not easy to get. I have the same helm, but with different jewels in it for my old build, so you can kind of compare the two. But yeah, not easy to get this one. You're not gonna find this one in game, in public trades or whatever. It's just one of those items that needs JSP for, because I looked in JSP for like a week for this. So yeah, it takes a while. And lastly, Beast. So for people who have no idea what a summoner is, they're like, what? Why the hell are you using a Beast on a caster class? Well, it's all about maximizing the damage on your summons, and that is why we use Beast. But before we get on with that, I need to go over some gearing options here. My goal is to reach, again, 56% faster hit recovery. That is done by these 3 skills here and the jewels in my helm and shield. And then the next goal is faster hit recovery. I want to be at 75% faster hit recovery for that breakpoint. So 20 here, 20 here, can't even quite remember my own math, but yeah, 20, 20, 20, so that's 60 here, and then I get +19, which puts me at 79. So I'm 4 faster cast rate over the breakpoint that most people aim for. 75 is a really good aim point. If you use a spirit shield, you should also use a Hotu and never use a beast. Having spirit shields makes you able to reach 125% faster cast rate on a Necromancer as well, which is a nice gearing option too. If you use a spirit shield and a Hotu, I do believe you also can just use a Mars amulet and still reach 125, which is again very nice. But there are a lot of gearing options. But for this specific build, I wanted to build my character around Beast, because I believe that Beast is gonna help me out in the gameplay that I'm going to be showing. I'm gonna try Ubers and we'll just see how it goes. For the most part, Beast is not better than using a Hotu, but it's just nice to have an aura on a summon Necromancer. There's just something about it, and that is why I really just went with this and tailored all my gear around Beast. And lastly, Marrow Walkers. This one is gonna be a bit of a long one, Basically, I went with Merc because it's the best choice. If you find with that explanation, move on, because this is gonna be a long one probably. So you see here, Elder's Boots, they give me fire resistance, which I don't need because my inventory keeps me on all resist. So fire resistant, 10% damage taken goes to mana, those are completely useless. Obviously maximum stamina, blah blah, is all useless. But then we come to the two most important parts. Plus 50 life. That equals like, I don't know, 80 life or 75 life after battle orders, which is a huge amount of life from a single item. And then, as I'm a complete hyped fan for faster run walk, 40% faster run walk on boots is way higher than any other boots in the game. I do believe Elders is the only boots with 30% faster run walk, which is just amazing. So why did I not go with these boots? Again, I don't need the fire resistance, but the life and the faster run walk is really nice. Well, then you start looking at what Marrow Walkers gives you. They give me +2 skeleton mastery. It's not gonna help too much, it's okay. It gives me way more defense, which is always a nice thing. They give me 20 strength. These I don't need. The 20 strength is not gonna help me since I use Enigma. The 17 dexterity, so that means that I have 17 more points to vitality, which I can to dexterity obviously, which I can put into vitality. So 1 point of vitality, so no you put like 1 point in vitality, that gives me 2 health. And then we are already getting somewhat close to 50 life on two Elder's Boots. The generate mana 10%. 10%, that's an okay amount. It's gonna help somewhat. Also, again, I get a little bit of a regen overall on all the gears, so it's always nice to stack mana regen. And then half freeze duration. That is a very good thing to have, because I'm not using a Ravenfrost ring or anything like that. That is why I went with these boots. There are other options like Sandstorm Tricks. Again, they're not better. The vitality is not gonna help too much. The strength would not help me much. The faster hit recovery would be nice. Maybe the poison resist could come somewhat useful, I suppose, but they are not better than Marrow Walkers, unless you perhaps needed more faster hit recovery than I do. But that's pretty much it. So I would only choose Sandstorm Tricks if I needed more faster hit walk. And then I have to talk about Water Walkers. Everyone uses Water Walkers because of the life. Again, the life goes way higher after you also consider Call to Arms, which is just an awesome thing, which many people do forget about, because I actually use Water Walkers and Elders a lot on my characters, but for yeah, it's just really hard to tell Marrow Walkers versus Water Walker. It really depends again. But I felt like that I'm already getting, you know, again the dexterity to max block, so I can put bomb points into vitality, plus half freeze duration, regen, skeleton mastery. It just gives so many things, these boots here, that helps me make me more safe and enjoy my character more, so I don't run out of mana. More damage is always fun, and it even gives me more defense. So yeah, sorry for the very long explanation there. I don't know if people really want to hear me ramble about boots choices for that long, but I thought I wanted to get a little in depth about it. But yeah, that was pretty much it for all the gear, I suppose. I can go over my inventory then. My inventory is pretty low, so I'm using 3 skillets with life, and then I'm using either a +5 or +4. And why do I use these insane jewels on this build here and never really used it in any of my other builds that I've shown, like ever? That is because it's so helpful, because I don't have an item that gives me resistance to certain elements. So Triangles gives me cold resist, which is nice, but there's no other item that gives me like, say if I was gonna use Elder's boots, I don't need these +5 resistance small champs, which will help a lot because these ones can be very expensive. I actually have unperm here, which is a perfect one. I guess it's unperm because it's barefoot, I don't know. And then I have a brown one, which is also pretty high, 60 life +5, which is nice. Definitely one of my better duels, small champs that I have on my entire account, probably. But yeah, that is why I went with the +5 or +4 all resist. And again, value, value attributes on your torch and your Nelius, so you don't have to put a single point into strength. That is gonna be a massive help. Really, just do it. Get these torches here, because it's gonna be annoying to always know that you put 3 or 4 or 5 extra strength into your character. It's just, there's just something pleasing about not putting 1 point of strength into your entire character. But yeah, that was my inventory really fast. So next up is gonna be the Merc. So the good old Merchant. These are the two options that I also will talk a bit about, but for the most part I'll just be focusing on the 3 items that I'm already using. Gulliam's Face, we're gonna be using this one to reach a new breakpoint with the attack speed duel in it. So my duel is a bit weird, it has 50% increased attack speed and 82 attack rank, but that's kind of what I had laying around. A treasury, it doesn't matter what sort of treasury you make it in. Try to get it in a light base armor, so your merchant can walk a bit faster, but that's about it. Higher defense on your merchant means that the fate is gonna proc less, which is actually a huge thing, because you have to remember that you have all these summons out and stuff, so it might take a while for fate to proc, and that is why you should probably just get a treasury in the lowest possible defense armor that you can find, and then an infinity. Cryptic Axe plus 15 attack speed there and 45 there reaches the breakpoint that I was aiming for, so that's perfect. Why infinity? Well, 40% crushing blow. We are needing this for the boss damage. Crushing blow crushing blow from the helm is amazing, together with really high attack speed. You're gonna be killing the bosses so fast with infinity. Conviction aura helps on corpse explosion damage, and the rest of the stats are okay. You're gonna get faster run walk and all the other things that infinity gives. But it's mostly just about crushing blow and the aura conviction to help on corpse explosion damage. Obedience. This is actually a decent enough choice if you feel like you don't need infinity, or you can't afford affinity, because infinity is maybe a little too expensive for you. Obedience definitely doesn't cost too much, especially if you can make it yourself on, say, ladder or whatever. Obedience would be a nice way to just have overall damage, so damage is very high on trash mobs as well, which means that you can kill the first target a lot faster and then just spam corpse explosion. So that is why obedience would probably be a decent choice for, what can you say, general gameplay that is not very focused on one specific task. And then lastly, pride. Why do I not use pride? I mean, it's gonna give me a 20% concentration hour. Link in the description below. Read the guide that I have there. I'm not gonna go into too much details, because then this guide is getting too long. It's already way too long, but basically pride will not deliver more damage than infinity. Also, pride has no crushing blow, which just makes it crap. And the most important part is freeze target free on pride. So you see down here at the, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, fourth line or something like that, it says freezes target free. That means it breaks corpses, and that is why pride is just such a terrible weapon for summon necros that rely on corpses for either corpse explosion or summons. But I suppose pride would be good in some situations, but it would be pretty limited, and it would be more just for showing off and having some fun. So yeah, I'm not gonna use pride. That's definitely out of the question. So yeah, that was it for the Merc. It's all about crushing blow pretty much. So next up is gameplay. I'm gonna be making a special video just for that one, cause the video already getting way too long for just the guide alone, so I'm gonna be breaking it up in a second part. This build is not one of the most expensive ones that I have made, but it definitely does require a few specific items to make it work. If you're using Beast, you could just not use Beast and then still have easy breakpoints reached, but I really wanted to show off Beast in this video guide, and that is why I tailored all my items around Beast pretty much. Yeah, very long guide, but I wanted to include everything, and I hope it was useful and, you know, kind of maybe a higher standard than my normal guides. I really try to be in depth about everything, but if I have missed anything or you think that I have ways that I can improve it, I would always love to know. And also, if you thought that this guide was better than some of my older guides or more recent, whatever, it's all good. So yeah, have a good one and goodbye.